We begin with the latest developments on Myanmar's military takeover. A lawyer for detained leader Aung San Suu Kyi says she's now facing an additional charge and that her detention period will be extended. The lawyer said on Tuesday that police filed a second charge against her for allegedly violating the country's natural disaster management law. She's already been charged with illegally importing handheld radios and using them without permission. Her detention was supposed to end this week, but is now expected to still continue due to the new charge. In the largest city, Yangon, hundreds of anti-coup protesters again took to the streets on Tuesday. They carried banners demanding her release and the country's return to civilian rule. Some protesters lay down on the ground and covered their eyes to protest the military's oppression. The military is ramping up its pressure on the protesters. It's deployed armored vehicles and more troops to Yangon and other major cities since the weekend. A telecom company says the military shut down the internet for a second consecutive night on Tuesday. Meanwhile, a United Nations spokesperson said Special Envoy Christine Schraner Burgener spoke to the deputy head of the Myanmar military on Monday. The envoy warned the army of severe consequences for any violent response to the demonstrations.
Ms. Schraner Burgener has reinforced that the right of peaceful assembly must fully be respected and that demonstrators are not subjected to reprisals. She's conveyed to the Myanmar military that the world is watching closely, and any form of heavy-handed response is likely to have severe consequences.
A spokesperson for the military said on Tuesday that protests are inciting violence illegally and pressuring civil servants. But tensions are likely to rise over Aung San Suu Kyi's detention, as demonstrators are expected to intensify their activities. Healthcare workers in Japan are set to get Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine on Wednesday. They'll be the first in the nation to receive the jab. A hospital in Tokyo received the vials on Tuesday evening. It'll keep the vaccine at a temperature of around minus 75 degrees Celsius in a special freezer. The minister in charge of the vaccination program announced that about 40,000 medical workers at 100 hospitals across the country will be inoculated first.
We are about to start vaccination, which is said to be the strongest weapon in the fight against the coronavirus. We hope many people will get vaccinated after accurately understanding the benefit and risk.
The minister said that elderly people will be next in line as early as April, after about 3.7 million healthcare workers. Local governments are preparing for the massive rollout. Officials of the city of Yokosuka near Tokyo plan to allow citizens to get the jabs at a department store. Shopping discounts are being considered for those who get the vaccine.
We will try to let citizens know about the merits of the vaccination. It is our duty to get as many people as possible to be inoculated.
The Health Ministry plans to launch a survey through social media to find out about post-injection effects. About 1 million people chosen at random will be asked about swelling, fatigue, or fever. Pfizer says as of January 18th, about 1 in every 200,000 jabs triggered a severe reaction. Once the government authorizes and rolls out vaccines from other developers, officials plan to expand the survey. 10 prefectures, including Tokyo and Osaka, remain under a state of emergency. Government officials say the number of new cases continues to decrease, but the pace of that decline has slowed. Health authorities across Japan reported more than 1,300 infections on Tuesday, with 101 deaths. 644 people are currently in serious condition. People in northeastern Japan are trying to get back to normal after Saturday's powerful earthquake, but lives are still disrupted in some areas. This shop reopened on Tuesday morning. It had been closed for 2 days after products fell off shelves and the store was flooded due to broken water pipes.
I'm happy to be able to reopen earlier than I expected. I want people to eat our fresh fish.
A junior high school in the city of Fukushima has been closed since the earthquake, but teachers held a special session at a community center for students preparing for high school entrance exams.
Even though the children are shocked, they may not be aware of their feelings. Meeting friends may ease some of their stress.
The disaster came just before the 10th anniversary of the massive earthquake and tsunami that triggered a nuclear disaster in Fukushima. The prefecture's governor sought financial support from the central government at a meeting with the disaster management minister.
The latest earthquake occurred as we have been experiencing a series of severe hardships. The situation could be the last straw for the residents.
Water supplies remain cut off in some communities, and heavy rain and strong winds are hampering reconstruction work in some areas. A district court in Western Japan has ruled in favor of a public high school which ordered a student to dye her hair black. The student had sued Osaka Prefecture after her school said she needed to darken her hair to conform to school rules. She said her hair was naturally brown, and she stopped attending the school after teachers repeatedly asked her to dye it. She sought about $20,000 in damages. On Tuesday, the court said that the school's hair color rules are based on justifiable reasons. It said the school has discretion to discipline students. The court rejected the girl's claim about her natural hair color, saying teachers had examined her scalp and thought her hair was originally black. But the court said the school should not have removed the girl's desk and deleted her name from its roster after her absence. It ordered the prefecture to pay her about $3,000 in damages for this. Japan's education ministry says more than 5,500 students refused to go to school in fiscal 2019 for reasons that included problems with school rules. The girls' lawsuit prompted some groups to call for the country's schools to review their policies. There are clear signs the coronavirus was more widely circulating in December 2019 than scientists previously believed, according to the lead investigator of the WHO team in Wuhan. Peter Ben Embarek spoke to NHK from Switzerland after his team wrapped up its visit to the Chinese city where the virus was first detected.
We could establish now that there was clear sign of more wider circulation of the virus in December 2019 than originally thought.
The Danish scientist says the virus was not only present at a seafood market, but elsewhere.
There was a substantial spread for sure. Out of the around 174 cases that we know from December 19, there were probably many more that were not detected. Many of them probably mild cases or asymptomatic cases.
He pointed out that severe cases made up only part of the total at that time, but there were no measures to detect mild cases. Mortality in Wuhan spiked in the middle of January 2020, indicating possible exposure by the end of December. He added that the team could find no traces of the virus before December in Wuhan or elsewhere. To aid in the research on early cases, Ben Embarek said the mission identified a new source of biological samples they hope to access soon.
There is blood samples in blood banks that we can use for that kind of research, and that had not been yet done in the past. They have about 200,000 samples available.
The blood bank samples date back a couple of years. They come from donors for use in hospitals for blood infusions, and small samples are kept in case analysis is needed. Ben Embark says the team met with blood bank officials in Wuhan, who agreed studying the samples would be a good idea. He's now waiting for China to provide the data. In the more immediate future, Ben Embark says the WHO team is finalizing its initial report on Wuhan, which will come out in a few days. The main report will be released later, and new studies on the virus are currently being planned. The WHO team isn't alone in their concerns over the early stages of the pandemic. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says more data is needed. He's calling for a global treaty on pandemics to track information. Johnson told reporters that he thinks it's fairly obvious that most evidence seems to show that the virus originated in Wuhan. To improve the transparency of the investigation, Johnson said researchers need as much data as possible.
We want zoonotic research hubs around the world, and we want a general agreement on transparency. And I think one of the attractive ideas that we've seen in the last few months has been a proposal for a global treaty on pandemics.
He said a treaty on pandemics would ensure signatory countries contribute all the data they have in order to get to the bottom of what's happened and stop it from reoccurring. Northern Japan will continue to deal with blizzard conditions Wednesday due to an intense low-pressure system. Our meteorologist Sayaka Mori has the details.
An explosively developed low called the weather bomb is hitting northern Japan with powerful winds and also heavy snow. Gusts were 162 kilometers per hour in Erimo Misaki, making it the record for the month of February. Nearly 30 centimeters of snow has fallen in Hokkaido. And because of the developed low, the pressure dropped to nearly 948 hectopascals in Nemuro. That's the all-time record low. And in fact, the record began about 150 years ago. No such number has never been recorded in the area. So very dangerous conditions are happening because winds and snow could cause whiteout conditions. That means visibility will be near zero. More snow is likely along the northwestern flank, and powerful winds will continue to batter northern Japan into Wednesday and possibly into Thursday. Record low temperatures and heavy snow have been pounding the United States as well. To show you the situation, take a look at this footage.
Myanmar's military says it can guarantee it will hold elections and recognize the winner, but did not give a date for the voting. India says new daily cases of coronavirus infection have fallen to 11,000 from a high of 100,000 in December. French President Emmanuel Macron calls for more aid for the G5 Sahel, a security group of African nations south of the Sahara Desert. And more than 4 million people in the southwestern U.S. state of Texas lost electricity Monday because of a strong winter storm.
The daughter of the ruler of Dubai says she's being held prisoner by her father. The BBC has obtained video recorded on a phone smuggled to Princess Latifah, in which she says she's been kept in solitary confinement in a villa. The trial of the detained civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has begun in Myanmar behind closed doors. She appeared via video link in the capital. Her lawyer says he hasn't been able to see her since she was arrested. New data suggests England's vaccination programme is starting to pay off. Coronavirus deaths are falling and more elderly people are developing antibodies. And the European Space Agency is recruiting astronauts for the first time in more than a decade. The agency also says it wants to recruit a trainee with a physical disability.